Hi guys, welcome back to week 2 of F the Boxes. So this week we're going to kind of chat about BS actually, which is our belief systems and how the family actually imposes, certain belief systems of who we should be and what boxes that
Mhm,
we are expected to sort of check off, right?
mhm.
So I hope you enjoy this one and I hope you're having a great week. And I'm going to hand it off to Dr. B for her insight on that.
For my BSs, because guess what? My maiden name started with an S, so I was really BS my whole life. And my
Right.
middle initial is an F, so it was BFS my whole life until I got married, and now it's BFSF. That's a mouthful. So anyway, lots of Fs and lots of S's. But anyway, BS. So belief systems, and oh my gosh, they start like I think at conception, honestly. And I'll I it's interesting because I think when a parent or parents find out that they are expecting, they already start to create the story of, well, one, boy or girl, or it doesn't matter, just a healthy child or whatever, right? Or the idea of like, oh, I had an older brother, and then it was me, so like I would really love a boy than a girl, right? So just kind of these beliefs of like who this child is going to be, how this child's going to line up in the family dynamic, maybe what they are when they grow up.
Yep.
Like, oh, well, I had, an uncle that was a CEO of a company or an attorney or a firefighter or whatever. And, it's this idea too. So my dad was a police officer. My mom was a school teacher. And so it was really interesting because growing up, it was like this idea of like, you're a doctor, you're a teacher, or you're police or fire, right? Like, so I don't remember when it was, it might've been like college age where all of a sudden my awareness was open to all of these other occupations that were out there. And I was like, what? Like, oh, and even still today, I have a patient come in and, oh, what do you do? And they'll tell me, and I'm like, that's a thing. I guess that's a thing. Like, that makes sense that that's a thing. I just never really thought about that could be a thing. It was kind of like you're led into this box or this belief system based on, you know, um, like what your parents thought were good occupations or what they felt were
Yep.
safe occupations or my dad being a police officer was like, go be a firefighter, don't be a police officer, right? And then of course there's doctor, there's lawyer, and there's school teacher. And so they were very basics, kind of like we name our emotions. We have like 4 or 5 emotions. We're sad, we're happy, we're frustrated, we're mad,
Main
we're
ones.
angry,
Yeah.
and we're like joyful, right? And usually it's more negative ones. So it's kind of like whatever our, I'll say parents, but like family, whatever, like our small home environment and our very close people, because they say like you're the product of the 5 people you hang out with the most. Well, as children, we're often hanging out with the people that our parents are choosing, right? And so what do those folks around us, coaches, teachers included, how does that start to shape us, right? And how does that start to, maybe we didn't have that belief, but like from conception, there's this story that's been created about who we are and who we're going to become, right? And so I
And
think
what
you have a story to share,
expectations?
right?
Well, and just like
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
expectations too, right? And their belief
Hmm.
systems that were superimposed on our parents and our
Hmm.
grandparents,
Totally.
you
Yeah.
know, like what they were supposed to do. Like my mom, like she was beautiful. She had a singing voice. Like she used to sing with like Bob Hope and Robert Goulet. I don't know if anybody knows any of those people,
I have no idea who
but
that is.
but but they were very, very famous in the 50s and the 60s. And my mom
Mm,
had a beautiful voice. So she wanted to be a
mm,
singer. She wanted to be on Broadway. Like her aspirations were not to get married and have kids. It's just that's not what she wanted.
hmm.
But she was the baby. My grandmother had her when she was 48, actually, which
Mm,
was
hmm.
like,
Like super
wow.
old back then, right?
In the 30s,
Like
yeah, like
geriatric
that's
stage
like
back
you're
then,
having
right?
sex at like, what? It's true though.
Yeah, you're not
Everyone would,
AMA, you're like really old.
yeah, like, oh my God, can you imagine? I mean, I think I had my best
Gosh.
sex when I was 48. Anyway, moving on. That's a
Hashtag
whole other
last year.
topic.
Last year. That was
Yeah,
last year. No, just
right.
kidding.
Oh yeah.
Huh,
Anywho,
hmm.
Yeah, and so my mom, like when
Oh, it's good.
got married and she had us kids, she was always pushing us, like my brother and my sister and
Mhm.
I, like live your dreams, do whatever that
I love
you
that.
want to do. So we were really
Mhm.
lucky from her point of view because she missed out, right? But my
Mm,
dad,
mhm.
Italian, was very old school. So my story that I wanted to share with you was that like I was 16, and of course that's when you want to get your driver license and everything else, right? So I told him, Dad, can you help me pay for my driver's license? I had a part-time job, so I was going to pay half. And he goes, well, you don't need a driver's license. I go, well, yeah, I do. Like, I got to go to school. I want to go to college, whatever. Like, he goes, you'll get married in a couple of years and your husband
Mm.
will drive your. And I was like,
You're like,
you're
no.
saying that? Like, my personality and you're actually
Mhm.
saying those words.
Mhm.
So then he's like, oh, yeah, I realized that. So it's like,
Mhm.
here you go, honey. But to have that like thought, can you imagine if I actually believed
Mm.
that? And then I was searching for a partner that had to drive me around. I would have to be dependent on that partner forever.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine?
No. No, because I think of like literally I'm in my car all day every day
Yeah.
doing all things.
Oh my
I can
God.
imagine like burdening somebody else to like have to tote me around.
But,
Um,
I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm sure there's,
oh yeah, for
many
sure.
people out that like,
That's why we can
even in
have this
this day and age.
conversation.
Yeah. Like, wow.
Mhm.
And that would
Yeah,
have changed my whole course of life.
for sure. For sure.
Maybe
Yeah,
in a good
wow.
way or a bad way, but
Away, sliding glass door, right? Yeah, I think of like various things that were said to me over, and it's the same. So it's the idea of, right, like once there's a ring on the, let's say you do it in order, because I didn't, but let's say you do it in order. So there's a ring on the finger. Oh, when's the wedding date? So then you get married, and on your wedding day, they're like, well, when are you guys gonna have children?
I know.
And then you get pregnant with the first, and you're not even delivering the first, and they're like, so are you gonna have more? How
Right.
many kids do you want? And it's like, whoa. I know my husband, well, it was mostly me, I think. I don't know that he received this as much, maybe being the male. But I remember after having Cordell, and I mean, he was like 3 or 4 months old, right? And I'm back I worked at like an orthopedic clinic at the time. So saw many patients in a day. And I can't tell you how many people were like, including my boss was like, well, when are you going to have a second? And when I would say, well, I actually don't know if we're going to have more kids, right? Like we're not certain. We don't have not put a stamp on this at all. And you never know what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, I don't know that we are choosing. We're definitely not choosing right this second.
Yeah.
And all of the like, wait, what? Like you're not going to have, you're going to stop after one? Or, well, what happens when you and your husband are no longer alive and your son doesn't have any family? I'm like, well, he does gonna have family. And hopefully by then he's created his own life. He's got his own friends. He's got his own family. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know that he needs a sibling to be able to like manage our death when that day comes, right? Like,
Right.
but it was just a very interesting, those kind of belief systems, right? Coming in of like, oh, well, you're basically going to leave him alone after you pass away. And like,
Yeah.
is that really how you think that works?
That's like an
So yeah, just
added
super
level
interesting.
of guilt. Well, it's
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah, like,
nursing.
mm-hmm.
It's like nursing.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many moms they weren't able to get their baby to latch
Yeah,
on, and there's like
I
guilt
couldn't.
on that.
Yeah, so I had to pump and feed. So it was literally like 90% of my day was either, like the machine hookups on me, and then holding my baby to feed him. And it was like hours later that I was like, oh wait, we got to start this process all over again. Oh,
Yeah.
and wait, I went back to work at 4 weeks postpartum. So here I am, like you were saying, like I'm in between clients and I'm trying to go into a room, lock the door, and pump for 20 minutes to produce some form of like nutrition for my child, right?
Yeah.
And at some point I just had, and I remember I literally, this is a total tangent, but I literally remember Cordell was like 5.5 months old, and Chris walked in and I was just bawling, and he's like, what? And I'm like, can I please just be, I was producing like 2 ounces a day and I was pumping
Yeah.
like every hour. And I was like, and I tried everything, right? Like from a
Yeah.
beer to like cookies to the supplements. I'm like,
Yep.
can I please just be done? And he goes, I'm surprised you lasted this long. Like, you're the only one telling yourself you still need to be doing this. And I was like,
Yeah.
uh,
Expectations that we're supposed to nurse. Yeah.
totally. And it should be a year or 2 years or whatever
Yeah.
it is, whatever your belief system is. But I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, I'm like killing myself here.
Yeah.
And the stress of that is probably actually limiting how much supply I have. Let's be
Exactly. And
honest. So
the pain, like your nipples get
mental
chafed
and
and
emotional and physical pain.
yeah.
Right?
And then you think
Yeah.
like you're being a
Yeah.
bad mom, like right from the get-go.
That's it, right? That's it.
Like
Like, well, and that was
shit.
the thing was like I was bawling. I'm like, I can't even provide food for my child. I'm the worst mom in the
And
world,
then you
right? Like,
like go
totally.
down this rabbit hole of like,
So that's a box. We're gonna F that box. Because like,
yeah,
girl, if you do not want to breastfeed or you just simply aren't producing and you want to be done, girl, it's not that you don't love your child. You do you, right? Like, I don't
yeah.
know. I give you permission to do you. That's like my big
Yeah,
thing.
because
So
I go back to like we've had this conversation of before is that if we don't take care of ourselves first, and foremost, then we're not going to
oh
be
yeah.
a supportive and
Yeah.
good mom. We're not going to be supportive partner. We're not
Right.
going to be
Right.
a good boss. We're not going to be a good friend,
Right.
right? We
Mm,
really have to take
serious.
care of ourselves. Self-care first, right? There's
That's it, right? That's it.
supplements
Like
there.
I
Yeah.
always think of it like I always, me, I like analogies. I always come back to like this glass of water, right? Like if this is all the water I have for the day, let's say, and I have 17 people I'm going to see and be part of their lives, and I pour a little bit into each. I'm not really like serving. I mean, I'm giving a little bit of water, right? But like at the end
Yeah.
of the day, my cup is empty. What if I start my day full? Or what if like during the day I replenish, right? And I fill it back up. So as I like meet and see people, I can like give them a little bit of water, a little bit of love, a little bit of light. Like, but I cannot serve them if my cup is empty, right? Like, period. I think it's
Hands
Jay
down.
Shetty, hashtag Jay Shetty, who was talking about in the ashram, they would always, and I could totally have this, like some of these little details wrong, but like, this is how I took it was in the morning, they do all their like meditations and self-serving ideas of like spirituality and filling their cup so that the entire afternoon slash evening, they're going out into the community and giving and doing and
Yeah.
serving. And I was like, that's for me, it was such a beautiful analogy and awareness of like they really do take, maybe it's 4, 6, 8 hours earlier in the day, and then at 2 o'clock they go out, and now for the next 6 they can give because they've spent that time filling up their cup. And I loved that. I will always, and that's again my perception, I don't know if all the details are correct, but that I will always hold on to that idea of like, yes, like it, like permission to fill my cup. So because I love serving, it's like one of my favoriteest things in the whole world, right? And so if I'm depleted and I'm drained, like I'm just going to be grumpy and I'm not going to be who I normally am or who I want to be when I'm around others, or for myself.
And the thing is that like here in North America, the United States and in Canada, right? We don't make time for ourselves. If you go to South America, Mexico, Costa
Mhm.
Rica, go to Europe, anywhere in Europe, right? They have nap.
Is like normal.
Yeah, they have siestas, right? They have a like a 3 hour lunch. Because it's too hot or they work with the climate or whatever it is.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
like they
But
make
it's the
time,
reboot. Yeah.
yeah, and they make
Mhm,
time to live.
mhm,
They make time to
mhm.
live. We don't. We literally work to live. That's all we do in North America is work, 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 work.
Yeah.
Maybe we
Go,
have
go, do,
seven
do, do.
minutes, 7 minutes a day, like for ourselves, right? I'm all about 22 minutes, right?
Yeah, I feel like that was probably 5 or 6 episodes ago, but we had that whole conversation. I don't remember which episode that was, but yeah.
Well, it was about
It was early
self-care.
on. I think it was at the beginning. Yeah,
I mean, we
where
keep
Kelly had
coming
got her
back to
22.
self-care because it's
Well, it is.
important.
It's so important, right? It's so important. And then, like, what does that even mean? So, if like I'm asking a patient, because part of my intake is your stress levels, like your sleep, like how your quality of sleep, does anything wake you up, that sort of thing. But one of the questions is self-care. It's very, very interesting to see what people write, but it's typically things like, oh, I get my nails done, once every month or once every 3 weeks. I get my hair done every 3 months. And I'm thinking like, those are great. Like those are things that I love too. Right. And,
Yeah.
and it's part of me just being me is because I have really, like, I chewed my nails since I basically had teeth. And so I don't have very lovely nails. So I get my nails done and I just do gel and I keep them short, but it makes me feel good. My vibration is higher by having clean, nice, not bloody hands.
Yeah.
But for me, that's, and yes, it's self-care, but I'm talking more. And so that's why that question is great, because it's like, oh, I want to see how they answer it. But it's this idea of like, no, on a daily basis, how are you? How are you taking care of you? How are you serving you? But I don't think we understand the depth of that from a societal standpoint. It's more of this idea of, oh, well, I talked to another mom while I'm at soccer practice for my kiddo, right? And it's like, okay, that's great, but what, like, come on, like, yeah. So I don't know. What do you think about? Well, we're just gonna tip into self care here. Just tell me a little bit
Yeah.
more about your idea of self care,
But
because I
like,
think it's
isn't
important.
that true though? And then they feel guilty when they answer the question, like, oh, well,
Oh,
I
totally.
had to do this just, I
Hmm.
just had a few minutes. So no, you should be
Yeah,
making that
for sure,
time
for
every
sure.
day, every
Yeah,
day.
it's almost like you should be weird if you're not,
Yeah,
instead of the
that's
other
how it
way
should
around,
be.
right?
But
Yeah.
again, that societal box is, well, you don't take care of yourself, that's selfish.
Hmm. I was
Don't
just
be
going to use that word.
selfish.
Literally, it's that idea. And then, like, selfish has this negative connotation to it of, like, how dare you take that time? And it's like, no, take that time, because when your cup is filled, you
Yeah,
then can serve others. You show up in a whole different light. You show up as your best self, right? And you're going to, like, it's the currency, right? So you're going to give more joy. You're going to receive more joy. It's this
yeah.
currency of, like, who you are and how you vibrate, which is all comes from the beliefs, right? But like, did your mom talk about self-care? Did your mom have a negative opinion of self-care? Did your dad think like, oh, your mom's just X, Y, and Z if she's like going and getting her nails done or spending time on herself?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting if we spin it. Hey, look at me. I'm learning from you. I'm spinning it back here. But if we kind of spin it back into that, like,
Yeah.
how does our idea of self-care, how is that affected by our beliefs as a child, as an adolescent, as a young human with maybe not very good financial stability to now, right? And how that can evolve. And now you have more things on your plate because probably you have kids and maybe you have a job in and out of the home or whatever, right? And so you have more things going on. How do you take care of you, and what's your belief around taking care of you?
What's your BS? That's your question. That's the question for the week.
I got a lot of BS.
What's your BS?
Are you asking me or are you asking
No,
them?
I'm just saying to them, like
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
our
Yeah.
community, like figure out what your BS is. Figure it
Humans
out
belief
and
systems,
make a
guys.
shift. So you shift it into your self-care,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. And I think like if you guys have been following us and hanging out with us on a weekly basis, you understand that like your shifts are happening, like ever evolving, right? So
Yep.
it's not like, oh, like you're in a rut, you should make a shift. Like, girl, I'm making shifts like every 2, 3 weeks, if not sooner, right? It's this idea of my contract with myself and with my other people, my relationships is ever evolving because I'm ever evolving. And so 6 months in, something might not feel good anymore. I might need to create a shift, or it's like,
Renegotiate.
oh yes, and there's a podcast on that, you guys. Renegotiate that. And so that idea of like just recognize that like it's okay
Yep.
to allow your belief systems to evolve, to change. You might break code with some and you might add some new ones on, but it's this idea of this ebb and flow and what suits you, what suits your relationships in this season of your life, right?
Yeah. And we have to
So,
grow.
mhm,
Have to grow.
yeah, for sure. So, all right, we're going to leave you guys with some BS. So, think about your BSs, your belief systems, and where do they come from? Do they come from
Yeah.
childhood? Do they come from mom or dad? Do they come from a coach? Where do they come from? And does it still serve you? And if it doesn't serve you, kick that belief system to the curb and replace it with something that lights you up. So
Yeah.
we're going to leave you on that,
100%.
my friends.
Be
So,
authentic, my friend. Be authentic.
yeah. Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys next week for the last episode of F
F
the
the
Boxes.
boxes.
Bye, guys.
Bye.